Welcome into Palmetto Sports Daily. I'm Carmine Jamay here in Greenville, joined with the Dream Team. Everybody's assembled here. Kevin Bilodeau in Charleston, Teagan Brown in Myrtle Beach, and Rick Henry in the capital of Columbia. We got everything today for sports fans out there. We got tennis, baseball, basketball, but starting off with college football ahead of two in-state matchups. The Gamecocks hosting Coastal Carolina and Clemson hosting Furman, both celebrating senior days for South Carolina and Clemson. And let's get right into some great sound bites. Head coach Dabo Swinney and senior quarterback Cade Klubnik talking about the emotions and the connections at Clemson of such an emotional day hosting Furman.
Man, I love these guys. I mean, this is life. I mean, I spend more time with these people than I do, my wife. Just to see that the best part of my job, I've always said, is seeing the transformation in a guy's life through this journey and process of football and competition and failure. But just seeing them completely grow into these equipped men from when I meet them. So it's emotional. I mean, it's an emotional day because I look at all these guys as my sons. That's just how I look at them. That's how I coach them. That's exactly how I coach them. Like their last name is Sweeney to me. I don't treat them any different.
I think just a lot of joy, just a lot of gratefulness, and I think a combination of those two, and probably some emotions too. Just looking around at the guys that I've been able to play with the past 4 years, and but I'm not really going to plan any emotions. I'm just going to kind of let it happen.
So it'll be an emotional day in Death Valley, and especially for Cade Klubnik. I mean, a quarterback who's led this team for now 3 full seasons, including a 4th season at the tail end, filling in for DJ Uiagalelei and leading this team to 2 ACC championships. He's played in almost 50 games for Clemson, counted for almost 100 touchdowns between rushing and passing. So, Rick, I don't mean to get emotional like your Dallas Cowboys Terrell Owens when he said, "That's my team, that's my quarterback," back in the day. But it is an emotional day. But, Rick, what do you think as far as just the emotions surrounding senior day for both of these teams?
Well, first of all, Carmine, I'm wondering why you got to throw my Dallas Cowboys into it. But anybody who knows me, like producer Nick, whenever it's the Dallas Cowboys, I display extreme joy through good times and bad times. Okay, now, as far as senior day and being emotional, it's going to be emotional for all the guys who go through senior day because it's your last home game, basically. You're being celebrated. Because of all the hard work you put in during your time there at campus. You've got your parents, your significant other, in a lot of cases they're with you. So it's going to be emotional, and especially when you have a season where you haven't lived up to expectations as a team for both South Carolina and Clemson, and you're going, wow, not the way I wanted to go out. So it's going to be emotional for seniors all around the country.
Yeah, Rick, and that's the reason why they scheduled for this next to last week as opposed to the actual last week in South Carolina's case at home,
right,
when they'll be home against Clemson. Makes more sense to do it, obviously for Clemson, this is their last home game. That's why they scheduled Furman. For South Carolina, Coastal Carolina, no offense, Teagan, this is a seemingly much easier matchup than Clemson will be in a couple of weeks. So it makes sense to do it this day because there's always a lot of emotions running around. And if you're South Carolina, especially, you don't need those emotions bubbling up when you're getting ready to take on your hated in-state rival in a couple of weeks, Teagan.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And, having that game for senior day that you're pretty confident you're going to win is definitely key because it is tough going out, on a day that you're being celebrated with a loss like that. And, being in Death Valley for the last time, that's emotional on top of it. And, of course, like you said, Rick, it just wasn't the year that they really expected it to be for either Clemson or South Carolina. Lots of preseason high expectations that just didn't really equate to anything, Carmine.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be bittersweet because you can salvage a little bit of pride by beating Furman and, more importantly, becoming bowl eligible for, this 2-decade streak that's continuing ever since the 2004 brawl between Clemson and South Carolina for Clemson to be bowl eligible. But it's also really sad, too, because it's not only the seniors who are going to be playing their last game in Death Valley. It's, some other big stars. I mean, we don't know the potential futures. Of course, they could come back, but T.J. Parker and Peter Woods on the defensive line, projected first-round picks. Avion Terrell, the star defensive back. Antonio Williams, Irmo native. All these guys could be heading to the NFL draft. So it's not only the seniors who are going to come down for, running down the hill, rubbing Howard's Rock for the last time. It is nice that the seniors get their each individual moment to run down the hill. And I'll tell you what, filming it, Rick, is very difficult because you're just constantly filming. Your shoulder and neck get a little tired there. But it's more about the seniors, obviously, than us. But for the Gamecocks, it'll be probably even more of a sad scene because they won't be making a bowl game, unfortunately.
Yeah, Carmine, you don't want to get taken out when the Tigers are running down the hill. A few years ago, I did see a TV photographer get blasted, was dazed, camera broken. And Carmine, you don't want to do that because it would go viral. Okay, let's talk about the Gamecocks. They're hosting Coastal Carolina, as you said, 4:15 kickoff. They'll honor their seniors at 3:50. Now, this will be the second game since Mike Furry, the wide receivers coach and passing game coordinator, took over the play calling. And you look at the first half against Texas A&M, Gamecock fans are wondering, hey, this guy should have been calling plays all season long because they scored 23 offensive points. That's more than the scoring production in entire games all of this season. They're up 30-3 at halftime, a 27-point lead. And if the offense can be like a third as productive as they were in that first half, you're going to win that game. But instead, they put up a goose egg, no points. And Texas A&M comes back to win at 31-30. Now, here's Mike Furry talking about the play calling in that game and how it went in the first and second halves.
Definitely executed way better in the first half than the second half. And I think the other thing, too, is I think I got a little bit too aggressive. I thought maybe just from a play calling standpoint where trying to just put the game away at times, if that makes sense. And so learning lesson for me and going through this process and continue to grow in that area. But and protecting those guys instead of just trying to put the game away and get some points and do something like that, just making sure we're better fit for that and stick to the plan. But the one word is just execution. We hit a couple of those big explosives in the second half. We just get one of them. That whole game has changed from a time standpoint. And so that's the two tails of those halves.
You heard him talk about explosive plays. They had 14 for the entire game. And if you're going for the knockout punch on first down and you don't get it, then you put yourself in second and third long situations where you have to try to go for it. And instead, you're like 3 and out. And you give the ball right back to the Aggies, and their offense gets hot. And before you know it, you're in a whole world of trouble. So, Teagan, I'll ask you, what do you think about Mike Furry's response there?
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously a really tough loss for them, and I'm sure it was really tough on him just seeing everything they did in that first half. But, like you said, a learning experience, and they'll just have to kind of figure it out from here. I'm curious, Rick, if there has been any question about who's taking over as OC permanently, if there's any talk about Mike Furry doing that, or if there's anything else happening.
Well, if he would have had the same production in the second half as he did in the first half, I think he would definitely be one of the top contenders to get the job permanently. But since it didn't go that way, we'll wait and see what he does against Coastal and against Clemson. But I'm thinking Shane Beamer is going to look to bring someone in from the outside to fix his offense. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the first segment of Palmetto Sports Daily. We're going to call our first time out. We'll be back with much, much more. And welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. We covered college football in our opening period, and right now we're going to talk some college hoops. The Gamecock women, the second-ranked Gamecock women, they had a 50-point win over Winthrop at home last night, 106-56 to go to 5-0. And that's what you're supposed to do when you're a contender to win the national championship like South Carolina's been for most of the past decade. You've got to take care of teams that you're supposed to beat and just really leave no doubt about who's the better squad. But the games you have to really judge the Gamecocks by are what they are doing against nationally ranked teams on neutral courts. They had an exhibition in Atlanta against North Carolina, a top 25 squad. They beat them. Last weekend, they go to L.A., a top 10 matchup against Southern Cal. They downed the Trojans. And coming up next week, they're going to go out to Las Vegas for a tournament, and that includes teams like Duke, Texas, UCLA. Now, Don Staley says that this team is still a work in progress. Let's hear from the coach right now.
I mean, I'm proud of this team. This team hasn't really reached its potential yet. I think we're getting a little bit closer just to finding our identity. And it's coming. It's coming. It's just not there yet.
We know we got 2 top 10 matchups coming up, so we know we have to, put the ball in the hoop, of course. And sharing the ball is, something that Coach, harps on. So I think we executed that well today.
The player we heard from right there is Tanaya Latson, transfer from Florida State. She led the nation in scoring last year at 25 points a game, and South Carolina had 3 players to score 20 or more points in a game for the first time since, let's go back to 2014. So, Kevin, what do you think about this early start for the Gamecocks, and especially the way they've been able to handle the highly ranked teams at neutral sites?
Well, I mean, that's been a staple for Dawn Staley, over the course of this past decade, is scheduling the best possible non-conference team she can. And I'm sure it's getting harder for her, too, because if you're another top 10 team, why do you want to play South Carolina at this point of the year? It might help make you better, but it's also going to knock you down in the rankings if they come in to your home court or you meet them at a neutral spot and they knock you off. And then that's going to give Dawn Staley a sense of what this team's going to do should you meet later on in the playoffs. So, I always give kudos to Dawn for the way she builds this schedule. Not just the top 10 teams and the highly ranked teams, but letting a team like Winthrop come in and play South Carolina. She's let Charleston Southern go in and play South Carolina before. That's a big deal for these other in-state teams to get them just kind of a taste of what it's like in the big time in the SEC and for a top-ranked national program. So Dawn always does an amazing job building the schedule, and this year is no different, Carmine.
Yeah, and I love how she gave her former assistant coaches a couple chances to take on the Titans in Columbia, too, which was really cool. Very thoughtful by Coach Dawn Staley. And, Rick, to your point, of the 3 players to score 20 last night, 2 of them were the key transfers, Tanaya Latson and Medina Okot, and both of them are in the top 4 scoring for the team. So I really like the way that they're being incorporated into the fold, because I think that was the biggest thing that the team was missing last year, was that dominant post presence that they've always had with Camila Cardoso, Asia Wilson, Aaliyah Boston on the national title teams. And who knows if Medina Okot could turn into that, but at least you have a player who's capable of averaging close to 20 and 10 so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, Carmine, that's definitely a good thing to have. And transfers, a huge part of pretty much every single team this year. You look at Coastal Carolina, and they are a majority transfers. They only have 1 returner who actually got any playing time last year. That's Kristen Williams. And the Chants actually matched up last night against a ranked opponent, taking on number 16 NC State. They were on the road for this one. And yeah, I mean, it was exciting for them, kind of like you said, Kevin, just to face a team like that and to get that kind of experience. Wasn't the best experience for them in the first half. The Chants scoring just 13 points, but they did come out swinging in that third quarter. They doubled that. They had 26 points in the third period alone. They ended up falling 71-58, but I think this team is still really trying to find their rhythm, still trying to find their chemistry. Tessa Grady was the leading scorer last night with 22 points. She went 8 for 17 shooting, 5 for 11 on three-point range. But, yeah, Coastal overall only shot 34% from the field, and they only went 6 for 29 from three-point range. So they do have some work to put in here, but head coach Kevin Pedersen, who you just saw, told us in the beginning of the season, it probably might take them 9 or 10 games to really figure out their identity and to figure out what they're capable of, Carmine.
Yeah, and that really is an interesting point, Teagan, because with all the transfer portal, we're seeing it on basically every team, unless you're a dynasty like a South Carolina team where you're bringing in all this talent. It's going to take a while to mesh, and they did a really good job against an NC State team there that is a couple years removed from making it all the way to the Final Four, so that's a pretty good program, and good job by Coastal there. On the men's side, Kevin, the Clemson men are taking a trip to your neck of the woods for the Charleston Classic. Clemson going to take on West Virginia Friday, and then another game at Charleston as well. And Clemson, we are also trying to figure out, they have only one player who got any playing time last year, which is Dylan Hunter there with the headband. And so they're also trying to mesh. It'll be not the easiest matchup against West Virginia. Their only really power conference opponent this season is Georgetown. They lost by 5 points. Other than that, they've won their other 4 games against non-power conference teams. So, Kevin, what can we expect from the Charleston Classic? Like, what's the atmosphere over there? And then to have these big college teams in Charleston.
Well, important to know, Carmine, that this is the first year that they've had a change of format in the Charleston Classic in the 18 years they've been having this tournament. It used to be, it was one 8-team bracket, and then teams would play 3 games over the course of 4 days, and a champion would be decided at some point on Sunday. This year, still 8 teams, but now they've broken it up into 2 different 4-team brackets, so there'll be 2 winners come Sunday, and each team only going to play 2 games over the course of the weekend, one on Friday and then one on Sunday. I'm not really a big fan of this format. I really love the old 8-team, 3-game format over the course of 4 days. I get why teams want to do this, though. It gives them a little bit more control over their schedule, gives them just 2 guaranteed games here so they can take another one and pick an opponent somewhere outside of this. But I am going to miss the way this used to be, Carmine, and how, it was more of a tournament format. But still, a good test for Clemson coming up. Like you said, West Virginia coming up tomorrow. I believe they play the winner of or the loser of Georgia Xavier coming up on Sunday. So for Clemson, a couple of tough contests coming up.
Yeah, definitely. Can't wait to hear about that. And also another big star going to Charleston in the tennis world. We'll talk about that right after a quick break.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. We move over to college baseball, where the 2026 season ridiculously is just about 2 months away at this point, and the College of Charleston releasing their 2026 schedule earlier this afternoon. And another tough one for Chad Holbrook and his team, as they have Clemson with the midweek game, South Carolina midweek game. They're also going to be playing inner-city rivals Charleston Southern and the Citadel. They open things up early on in February as they take on Rutgers in a 4-game series over here at Patriots Point. So hosting a Big Ten team is a strong start for CFC, even if it is just Rutgers. But a 56-game slate for the college. That also includes Air Force, Presbyterian, USC Upstate, Coastal Carolina a couple times, Wofford and Winthrop. So Chad Holbrook doing all he can to put together a solid non-conference schedule for the Cougars this year as they try to make a run back towards the NCAA tournament. It should be noted, though, that the CAA moving to a new divisional format this year. So each team plays 10 conference weekends, and it looks like the College of Charleston going to avoid Northeastern, at least during the regular season. So that could be a big deal, because Northeastern really built themselves as a powerhouse in the CAA over the last couple of years. So that's going to be some college baseball news right there. We do move over to tennis, where the roster for the Charleston Open in 2026 also starting to take shape a little bit. Really no surprise here, as Charleston native Emma Navarro putting her name in the hat for champion of the 2026 event, as the Low Country native announcing this morning that she will be taking part in the tournament on Daniel Island coming up in March and April of next year. She joins the defending champion Jessica Paguglia and former champion Madison Keys as Americans who are already in the field for next year. So that is a strong start to that field with those 3 Americans coming back to Daniel Island, Teagan.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I know that she made it to the quarterfinals there last year in Charleston. The season for her will get started not too long from now, beginning of January. She also confirmed she's going to the ASB Classic. I believe she's ranked number 15 in the world right now, so I'm excited to see what she does this season. Hopefully I'll be able to make it out to the Charleston Classic this year, because watching her in person, I'm sure, would be a whole different ballgame. We're going to take a quick break here, though, on Palmetto Sports Daily. We'll be right back. Every once in a while on the show, we talk about some sports we don't get to talk about too often. Wrestling is one of them. As shown a few months ago, the only thing I really know about wrestling is You Can't See Me, John Cena. That's about it. So
where'd she
I'm going to
go?
let Kevin talk about this. Oh my gosh, she's gone. So I'm going to let Kevin talk about this. Kevin, what's the wrestling news on the show today?
No, it actually is a big deal, too, Teagan, because Major League Wrestling is going to be holding a show here in Charleston later on tonight over at the Charleston Music Hall. It's the first pro wrestling event in downtown Charleston in more than 3 decades. So that itself is a big deal. The other news coming out of Major League Wrestling earlier this afternoon is that the company is moving their entire headquarters down to Charleston in the next couple of weeks. So this is probably the 4th biggest pro wrestling organization in the United States. When you look at WWE, AEW, and TNA, MLW is kind of right behind them. And for them to be moving their entire operation down to Charleston, that's a really big deal. And so they say that they're going to have a lot more shows here in the Low Country. It's just the start of what they're hoping is a good relationship here with the Low Country and MLW. So we're going to have more on that coming up later tonight. Very excited about that. We're going to wrap things up here on Palmetto Sports Daily. For Carmine and Teagan and Rick, I'm Kevin. Everyone have a great rest of your day. We'll see you back here for Football Friday.